Final Fantasy IX, one of the most beloved entries of the long-running series, recently announced that an animated series based on its story that was originally announced back in 2021 was still in development. Now with a new studio, Eurovisual, taking over for the now defunct Cyber Group Studios and will co-produce with La Chout Compagnie. Though many people started to raise a number of questions on this matter, such as why is a French studio taking the reins of one of Square Enix's biggest properties when other anime studios have already had relationships with the game maker. Others also questioned the direction of the series, as it is based on the children of one of its main characters, Vivi, and is geared to a much younger audience. If you haven't played the game before, don't let the animation style fool you. This is a video game that deals with some very heavy themes, such as impending death, genocide, and acceptance among others. Seeing this as their last hurrah on the original PlayStation back in 2000, director Hiroyuki Ito pushed the system and story to their limits. So the idea that the anime would be aiming for a 6 to 13-year-old audience is odd. Unlike other entries that have never left the zeitgeist, Final Fantasy IX unfortunately got lost in the mix. Yes, it has its defenders, and I would include myself in that list, but coming out when the PS2 had already entered the market in Japan and only a couple of months before its North American release, it didn't get the same room that the other two PS1 original entries got with 7 and 8. It still sold well, but Final Fantasy X would soon become the new standard bearer once released on PS2 as the first entry with voice acting. Squaresoft, and later Square Enix, would continue to make sure Final Fantasy IX was accessible for all their systems, but it often felt like the forgotten entry of the series by the company themselves. Others would see toys, movies, and spin-off games, but 9 was pretty much just contained to the single entry. There has been a rumored remake in the works for years now, and seems to be all but confirmed. This could also be one of the biggest reasons for an animation to be coming out based on the world, to try and capitalize on the new game, as the choice to do a new animation based on the world after the events of the game would be a much harder prospect without something to draw in new viewers. Even with finding a way to utilize the striking look of the FF Black Mage design, though this still seems weird to target the demographic that they are going for though. It is very hard to feel like children would care too much for a tie-in cartoon to a nearly 26-year-old video game that hasn't been in the forefront of Square Enix's business model. Then there are the studios attached to produce the series. Originally, Cyber Group Studio was going to handle this, and there is a slight connection to Square Enix as they handled the Mini Ninjas cartoon at a time when Square still owned Eidos Interactive, the publisher of Mini Ninjas. Sadly, the studio would dissolve completely in 2025 after years of acquisition and multiple changes in leadership. Eurovisual would then step in, though there isn't a lot of info on them, and at the time of writing, they only have 2 projects to their name on IMDb's website, A Tout 5 and The Bellflower Bunnies, each co-produced with other studios. Even the news of the show's revival hasn't been acknowledged by Square Enix. The last time they seemed to say anything was to confirm the original 2021 announcement through the website Kotaku. Info on the revival comes from the French magazine Écran Total, stating it was in production through Eurovisual. So who knows how long this information was from, and if it was still from a time when Cyber Group Studio was still attached, and were going to co-produce with Eurovisual. Out of their reporting, we do get information of the logline for the series that had been present in previous leaks. Mel, Calm, Luciola, Thea, Fala, and Dog, children of the hero Vivi, are the last black mages of the 4 continents. Today, they live happily in the city of Alexandria, guarded by its rather friendly, though sometimes very curious inhabitants. Unfortunately, this peaceful existence was not to last. One day, Calm discovers Mel frozen like a statue in the inn where he works. Could this be the tragic legacy of their father catching up with them? Through these leaks, we have received the following image as well, contributed to the series, showing the siblings and a few of what seems to be their allies together. Aside from that, there isn't a lot of information out there, and lacking official word from Square Enix or even Eurovisual, it is hard to know exactly what is going on. The names that are attached, Charles Lefebvre and Sylvain dos Santos, do both have animation credits, with the latter being connected with Cyber Group Studio in the past, and now with the co-production studio La Couette Compagnie. So far, with the information given, I'm not fully sure if this cartoon is still in production. There is obviously a dedicated fandom that wants this info to be true. Though, is that desire just from the lack of content we have gotten from this beloved game in the decades since its release? Hopefully more info will be released in either direction to give us some closure on what is going on and what to expect. Though, even if this is true, is this a take that the fans will accept? Again, FF9 was a remarkable and well thought out story, and I would put it up there with the most popular entries in the franchise easily. At the very least, let's hope that Square Enix does see the love that is coming in for this game and finally give it the time in the spotlight it is always deserved. As I was putting the finishing touches on this episode, I did get a reply from Sylvain De Santos, as I had reached out to see if there was anything they could say about the project. While there wasn't much they could disclose due to confidentiality of the series, they did clear up their and Charles's role, as the Ekron total had their positions reversed. Charles was the graphic designer on the series, and De Santos developed the story portion. Sadly, he was unable to confirm if it was still in development. I do want to thank De Santos for his time in getting back to me on this matter, and also apologize if he happens upon this video for my pronunciation of the French words from this episode. I do wish him and the team the best, as they do have a number of projects in the works that look very good. I did want to share a bit of news that was recently announced as well. The manga Ruri Dragon by Masaoki Shindo and published by Shonen Jump was announced to be receiving an anime adaptation through Kyoto Animation, the studio responsible for titles like K-On! And Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. I had this one on a list I was keeping for manga that I would hope to get made into anime for a future video down the road, but I'm glad that it was announced to be moving to animation, though a set date for its premiere is still not announced. The story follows high schooler Ruri, who wakes up one day to find that she has grown dragon horns. Through her mother, she learns that she is half dragon, and we watch as she has to tell her class and deal with the draconic powers she has inherited. Something she isn't too happy to deal with, as she is typically a quiet student that tries to not draw too much attention to themselves. I've been reading this one for a while now and has one of my favorite things in any medium, which is characters that have this info that would normally be world-changing, but the story just continues on as normal. Yes, her classmates have questions, but for the most part, she is now the dragon girl to most of the others in the school, and she still has to worry about her grades. You can find a preview on Viz's website of the first chapter. It is a fun read with great art by Shindo and worth checking out. That is all for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like and subscribe buttons for more content like this. Also, I want to wish everyone a happy new year. We'll be back soon with another video. I had one in the works that was going to come out instead of this one, but I pushed it back once the info on FF9's cartoon broke. Though my question for you is, if someone was going to pick up Final Fantasy IX and do an anime based on the game, who is the studio you would wish to take over? Put that in the comments, and I'll be happy to read and see what everyone thinks. Till next time, this was the Anime Report by Bionic Weasel.